because it didn't matter how much you lift when you were there. We were going to lift it so many times that you were going to die, right? Those muscles were not going to be able to do it anymore. And your mind would be the only thing pushing that weight, right? So think about that for a second. It doesn't matter. You can lift 500 pounds or you can lift 150 pounds. But if you do it to the death, if you do it till you can't do it anymore, now what do you do, right? So now you're talking into the mental capacity and the heart of an individual, right? That's where you know, okay, well, if I get into something, if I get into some real trouble here, if something really happens and physically it's not there, and because your mind can make your body do so much more than what you think, right? The body is capable, but it's your mind. Most people, it's their mind that keep them back.
Southwest Florida is one of the most beautiful places on the planet to live. For those of you that are thinking of moving from other states to come to Florida, or even just moving to a different part of the state, I want you to think of a big, beautiful luxury home. Contact Legacy Luxury Builders. They are a family-owned and operated luxury residential construction company. As a family-owned business, they believe in the power of building not just homes, but legacies. Contact Legacy Luxury Builders. Unlock your true potential on the field and court with our Peak Mental Performance Program for athletes. Train your mind to conquer challenges, stay focused under pressure, and achieve unparalleled success. Our expert coaches will guide you through personalized techniques, enhancing concentration, resilience, and confidence. Picture yourself outperforming your rivals, making split-second decisions with clarity, and achieving victory like never before. Join us today and elevate your game to new heights. Peak Mental Performance Program, where champions are forged in the mind. Email me today, sean.french@thedeterminedsociety.com for more information. See you inside. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Determined Society. I am your host and the mental performance coach for all athletes and peak performers. I have with me today, y'all, a wonderful gentleman who played the football at the highest level possible. Before that, he was a 2006 national champion at the University of Florida, linebacker, star of Untold, Netflix series Untold, The Swamp Kings. I have with me the owner of Legacy Pro Sports and the ever amazing Brandon Siler. What's up, buddy?
What's happening, man? How you doing, Sean? I appreciate you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, man. We've been trying to schedule this for quite some time. I'm happy we were able to finally lock it in on a nice little Wednesday morning and rap a little bit, man. So, dude, of course, watching you on the Swamp Kings, I'm like, dude, this is someone I need to have on my show as soon as humanly possible, because I just loved your fire, your passion for what you were doing back then. And I know you're bringing it into what you're doing now, and we'll get to that. But I think what the audience is really going to want to dive into is just the mindset of being a high performing athlete at a University of Florida when you had all the dudes there and you guys were chasing so many different things under the leadership of Urban Meyer. Tell everybody what that was like, man.
It was different, man, because everything was about production, right? I told a story of like how I had a chain that I would put on, and we had every link to that chain. I'm talking about a huge chain. This thing is, 100 pounds, right? And I would, when a guy would prove himself worthy, you would be able to sign your name and you put it on a link on that chain, right? And we said that we was only as strong as our weakest link. Well, me and Urban used to get into it all the time about the names on this chain because, of course, him as a coach, he wants to put everybody on the chain eventually, And I just was like, well, there's some guys that never should be on this chain because I don't ever want that to be how strong we are, So we argued back and forth about that. But as the year went on and more people bought in and more people proved themselves worthy, more people got on it. And eventually, I think it was the first time it was the SEC championship when everybody was actually on that chain,
Amazing. It's an amazing thing because, at LSU, I played baseball there in 01 to 03, so I'm an SEC brother as well. and we had this thing called hold the rope. And the idea behind it was, Skip Bourbon talked about hanging the rope down the cliff. What teammate do you want holding on the other end if you're going to fall to your death? And some dudes would be like, yo, I want Warren Morris. Like, hey, I want this guy. And Skip was like, well, the correct answer is it doesn't matter. Right. So it's kind of the same thing, right? You want everybody to be worthy of holding that rope. You want everybody to be worthy of having a link in that chain because it's so symbolic to what goes out on the gridiron, man. I mean, watching the story, and again, of course, I'm a big, college sports guy. I just remember, man, like that era. I mean, being an LSU guy, I was like, dude, is like, is like Siler and Tebow ever going to go away? Because I can't stand this, man. I can't stand it. Um, but you guys were some strong people, dude. And again, I have my theories, but talk to the audience about how you guys got so close and so strong as a unit, because the believability that you guys had in each other and yourselves was like that's missing nowadays, man, in these young athletes.
Yeah, and it's missing a lot of different places when it comes to team sports. I'll give you another
Mm-hmm.
philosophy kind of that we went by, right? We had, Urban used to say, look, there's a wall in front of us, sitting in front of us, right? And every single one of us, if we run at 100%, you and your teammates, we run at 100%, we'll run through that wall. And on the other side is everything that we ever wanted. Okay, it'll be the
Mm,
championships, it'll be the money, it'll be the fame, it'll be everything else on the
mm,
other side of that wall, right? But if one person didn't go at 100%, everybody that went at 100% will break their necks and not be able to do this ever again.
mm,
So, how much did you trust that person next to you that that person was going to run at 100%, trusting the fact that you wouldn't be the one that let them down and they break their net and not run
mm.
through the wall? So, those kind of philosophies are philosophies that are great for team sports, right? Because what it does is it allows you to delve more into who the people are that are around you, what makes them go, what makes them don't go, what makes them
Mhm.
have bad days and good days, right? And that's why that I told in the Netflix documentary of the story of basically how I went and connected with every little subgroup there was. I would stay after and study with the geeks, right? I would go to the
Mhm.
club with the thugs, right? I would go hunting with the country boys, right? So that
Mhm.
when Jimbo Tart was not having a bad day and he was this big country kid, I knew what motivated Jimbo Tart. I knew why he
Mm.
did it, and I was able to pull on those strings. And then the second part of that is when you spend that time with them guys, also letting them into who you are, right? Because a lot of leaders they want to, oh yeah, we'll do it. I'll hang with you. You let me know what makes you go, but you never give a
Mhm.
piece of that to everybody else around you that you're eventually trying to lead. Then guess what? They won't
Mm.
go as hard for you. They won't be there as much for you because you haven't let them into your world. So that's kind of a two-pronged thing when trying to get a team on the same page and getting that kind of like family aspect behind making your team into a team that's so close that you're pretty much like a family.
Dude, spot on, bro. When you talk about getting in everybody's world, right? Talking about studying with the geeks, going to hunt with the country boys, go clubbing with the thugs, all that kind of stuff. You get a peek inside their world. You understand what makes them tick. But where I don't say all, but most leaders go wrong is that's where they
Right.
stop. Right. And you mentioned something to me that I don't know if you saw the reaction on my face. It really piqued my interest because I believe as a leader that if you cannot give a peek behind the curtain of what you're about and what makes you tick, what your fears are, your insecurities, whatever it is, everybody has those things. As a leader, if you can't show the people that are working with you or, side by side, or in your case now as an entrepreneur, it ain't going to work for
Right.
you. I mean, I can take that to parenting
Yeah.
too. I, I let my 3 kids know exactly what my weaknesses
Right.
are, bro. Like
Yep.
straight up. Like I apologize when I get it wrong. You're gonna like this story. So last night, I bet my son, he's almost 10. He's at a little minor baseball game, fall ball.
Hmm.
And he's in that age where he's like, I'm going to LSU, dad, no problem. I'm like, bruh, like you better get a little dog in you then because you're not quite there. mentally yet, right? As you're 9, dude, chill, have
Yeah.
fun, fall in love with the game. But he's at this age, man, in this thing where every time he makes a mistake, he wants to act like he's hurt, right? To cover up the fact that he made that
Right.
mistake. And dude, I already had a bad day yesterday. We're sitting there and we're just walking the ballpark and not doing very well. Well, nobody on, nobody out. He gets a ground ball at shortstop. Okay. Fields it cleanly, looks around, doesn't know where to throw it. I'm like, what in the hell is going on with this kid right now? And so he doesn't throw it. Like he doesn't throw it to first base. And then he throws it to the pitcher, but overthrows the pitcher. So the guy, the runner goes to second. And then and then the catcher throws it. And apparently the second baseman him jumped. And I guess the second baseman came down on his finger. I didn't see it. And all of a sudden he's on the ground crying. And daddy's pissed. Right. I'm going somewhere with this, man. So he comes off the field. I'm like, just go sit down. Like, why is it every time that you're getting hurt or you make a mistake, you're acting like you're hurt, man? That's why I'm mad. I don't care that you made a mistake. And I sat there and I thought about it. Like, man, I didn't even ask him what happened. So I sit him down and I go, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't ask you what happened. What happened? He's like, I got stepped on. I was like, well, I made a mistake. I'm your dad. I'm your coach. I'm sorry. Do you forgive me? Like a lot of times I jump to conclusions, I said, and I go, that's not a very good job of leading you right now. And so like, that's the point, man, is allowing the people that you're working with or working for you to know that you're just a flawed individual as well. And apologizing and let them know where you fall short. Right.
Yeah. I understand that. And I completely hear your story. But at the end of the day, you also knew that he faked being hurt because he made that mistake. Right. So,
Dog. Hey, homeboy was fine after an inning.
And this is the thing. This is where you take that next level, that next level of understanding, right? It's like I knew that he faked, right? But what I have to make him do is come to that conclusion on his own. Because if I just say, hey son, man, you can't keep faking every time you make a mistake, right? He's gonna say, well, he doesn't care about my finger. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, I mean, a baseball player. I mean, you're a high level football guy. I'm like,
you
well,
don't
you don't
need
even
that
need that
finger.
finger. That finger. Ronnie Lott bit his own finger off. Like,
Right.
it's in your glove hand, bro.
Right.
It's what you need.
So
You ain't throwing with that thing.
right. And I think that is the thing that we have to learn, like even as leaders, as teammates, as parents, everything is that there's a
Right.
way to talk him through that. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, son, so you didn't know what to throw at the first base, right? And you're like, well, no, I didn't. Got a little confused there. That's not a problem, you know. But getting stepped on, if it wasn't after that play, you think you probably would have came out still. I don't know, Dad. You know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, now we got to combine these two, son. When you make a mistake like this, we can't have you reacting like this to an injury because you usually wouldn't do that, right? If you made that play and then got stepped on, you're back up and you're still in the game, right? Your teammates are counting on you, and if you're going to be the type of player that you need to be, when you fail or when something goes wrong, you can't cop out by saying that you hurt because then you miss the opportunity to be the hero in a situation where they really truly
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And bro, to be honest, like I said, like for real, and he was back in next inning.
Right.
He was
Of
fine.
course.
He run around. Ain't nothing wrong with his finger.
You know that. Yeah, you know it. Same thing.
Oh, bro, all these parents are looking at me like, oh boy, French is about to lose it. He's about to lose it on his kid. I said to my coach, my assistant, hey, bro, you handle this. I can't right now. Like people are bringing him ice. I'm like, oh my God. But it was one of those moments, man. And you're right.
And I got a 10-year-old, same thing, man. It's that age, limping off the field. And I told him, like, son, you limping off the field. You don't ever have that opportunity. If Jordan misses a shot with a minute left and he goes out of the game, it's only 60 more seconds left. If he goes out of the game faking like he's hurt, when it's 9 seconds left and it's they need somebody to pass the ball to, you're not there, right? So it's all about that ability to be able to take controversy or take things that go wrong and fight through them so that you can still be there when it's time for things to go right, or when you work your butt off
I'm with you,
on
bro.
the
And
process stuff
dude,
that you.
that's life.
That's life. Yep, that's it.
That That's
That's
life,
it.
man. I mean, it's one of those things like sports, man, like our job when we're, walking our kids through, sports and extracurriculars. It's not about the sport. It's about I want to teach you how to react in life,
Hmm.
or I'm sorry, respond, not react. Because like yesterday, I think that was a
Yeah,
reaction,
yeah,
right? And then here I am reacting, not
yeah,
responding in the same
yeah.
moment. It's a vicious
Ah,
cycle. It's like goodness gracious, like
it's
calling
a
myself
vicious
out here.
cycle.
Dang it. I I can't do it. He made me do it. Oh,
But
man. And, these kids, they get stronger as they get older,
yeah,
you know
and
that,
that
you know?
just that age is right there in the middle of it too. But you just
Mhm.
and like you said, that's life, right? It's teaching them to fight through it. It's just like every game, right? There's nobody the true stories, the great games aren't the ones where they executed it
Mhm.
perfectly, right? Nobody's ever gonna remember the
Yeah.
game that was 49-0, right? They remember the game
Right.
that you were down 29 at halftime and came back. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Man, man.
is okay. They had adversity, and then they was able to fight through that adversity and persevere and overcome that adversity and ultimately still win. You know what I'm saying? So those are the great stories.
Absolutely.
That's why
Yeah.
everybody, every athlete wants to claim that they're from the hood, right? It's like, well, no, you're not, right? You didn't have a trouble. You didn't have a
Yeah.
trouble growing up. It's like, yeah, I did. You know, I rode in a 3-year-old Lexus. It was 3 years old already. We struggled. It's like,
Oh, there was
no, you
crank
didn't. But
windows.
that's the story, right? Everybody wants to hear the
Yeah.
story of perseverance. It's why, it's the difference between, fans of somebody like LeBron, and then
Mhm.
fans of somebody like Steph Curry, right? Now, as I hit
Mhm.
this moment in my life where I'm different, I was raised way different than my sons are going to be raised, right? Like I'm raising my son with,
Sure.
riding around in Bentleys, So,
Mhm. Yeah.
so where do they find that motivation at? Actually, I feel like I used to feel like the story was all LeBron, right? It's like this is a guy that
Mhm.
fought through everything, da da da. But a more interesting story to me now after raising my kids is, well, how do the guys like Steph, right? Where do they find the motivation, right? Like mine was, I want to change my whole family dynamic. I don't want to be poor
Yeah.
anymore, all of that. Now, if you
Mhm.
have it, you got to draw even deeper. There got to be a deeper sense of wanting to be great for yourself and who
Mhm.
you are, right? That when you're somebody that grows up with it, you got to go and tap into that. And even parenting style, it's a lot harder for us in that next generation because we don't truly understand
Mhm.
what makes our kids go without talking to them and understanding,
Mhm.
where they come from. And uh, I made kind of I was talking to one of my buddies the other day, and I was like, what I've learned is that my kids have the same level of problems that I had growing up, right? If mine
Mhm.
was, oh, we didn't know where we were going to find our next meal, right? He has a problem that's that important to him in his life. It might not be as
Yeah.
detrimental as my problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
dang,
Yeah.
there's nothing without peanuts in the ice cream line, and I'm allergic to peanuts. And he's stressed out because everybody is eating the
Mhm.
peanut ice cream and he ain't. But to
Yeah,
him,
he
it's
can't,
that
yeah.
level of problem, and that's where you gotta meet him at. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the
Yeah.
same thing with all of my employees, at all my different companies. I think it's the same thing when I was trying to lead a football team or you're trying to lead someone in sports. It's that same thing. You got to meet them where they at. And in order to do that, you got to really get to know the person and know what makes them go and what doesn't make them go, what they like, what they don't like, what they love, what they.
I love that, dude. And dude, it's so important, man. And it segues into the next topic because I think that in a sports team or, in companies or even just in a family dynamic, you really don't know what anybody's made out of until you see them break. Right. And I think that's the moment, right? So walk us through those moments in college, right? Because I mean, it's documented. I mean, your guys' workouts. scare the absolute you know what out of me. Like I'm looking at you and I'm like, is this guy mental? Like, what is he doing? Right. But again, you can see it in someone's eyes when they're about to break and they're going through so much physical pain. Where can they put their mind to push through it? That embodies how they're going to perform on the field and in life. So walk us through that,
I
man.
think that is one of the strongest things ever. Is what our workouts was, to me, wasn't even physical. It was so
Hmm.
much physical that it took the physical element out of it, right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't matter how much you lift when you were there. We were going to lift it so many times that you were going to die, right? Those muscles were not
Hmm.
going to be able to do it anymore, and your mind would be
Hmm.
the only thing pushing that weight, right? So think about that for a second. It doesn't matter. You could lift 500 pounds or you could lift 150 pounds, but if you do it to the death, if you do it till you can't do it anymore, now what do you do? Right? So now you're
Hmm.
talking into the mental capacity and the heart of an individual, right? That's where you know, okay, well, if I get into some real trouble here, if something really happens and physically it's not there, and because your mind can make your body do so much more than what you think, right? The body is capable,
Hmm.
but it's your mind. Most people, it's their
Hmm.
mind that keep them back. So those workouts that we had, the midnight lifts, the Halloween lifts, all of that stuff, to mentally strong people, we loved it, right? A guy like
Yeah.
me, a guy like Tebow, I mean, those nights, I loved it. I couldn't wait till I get there,
Hmm.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
there early, like
Yeah.
getting ready for it. But you could see,
On
yeah,
Halloween, just
yeah,
ready.
and you could see guys like scared to walk in there because they
Yeah.
know that they're not going to be able to hide. Like
Yeah.
what's truly inside of them, they can lift 500 pounds all they want, right? That's a strength thing. But they knew that in
Hmm.
that workout, they were gonna get broken down, and all of what they had up underneath that 500-pound body was coming out of them, right? They were gonna go
Dude.
that tap deep down into their heart and to their mental capacity to a point that when you can't do it anymore, what do you do? Do you keep fighting? Do you just
Yeah.
get everything that your body can give for those 1, 2 more reps? Or do you quit, right? And when you quit in our organization, when you quit in our team, it was a spotlight shined right down on you, and we could tell that you
Yeah.
quit. I mean, some of those things that we did, like, you had to get past the line and there was no rules, like,
Hmm.
my move, get somebody in a headlock, they can pass out, right? And then let's go, y'all wake them up, I won, So those were the type of things that though I loved, right? I was like, give it
Hmm.
to me. I love all of that. But
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happened is after doing that over and over and over again, what it does is it strengthens people's mind, right? Because they understand that they got to go through this anyway. So why not just keep fighting, 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 and give everything that you got, even when you ain't got no more, just give it. And now you don't got this spotlight shining down on you, and you've learned that your mind can take your body so much further than you thought it could in the first place. So that was kind of the philosophy behind that. And I think that's what, one of the philosophies that made us unstoppable to a point, like we just felt like
Yeah.
nobody could beat us.
It was scary. I mean, those squads were scary, man. And I'm going to tell you, this is a great point because and this is something that I think that people really struggle with in today's society is they're so apprehensive to go to that place of absolute and utter discomfort, of darkness, of despair. And like, dude, that's where they're going to find themselves. That's exactly where they're going to realize, wait a second, all the stuff in my mind of how bad it was going to be, how terrible I was going to perform, those were just bad thoughts.
Hmm.
And that's head trash. And what really happened is I got through it. So why can't I do it again? And now when you're sitting there, you know, in the middle of the swamp and there's 100,000 people that are yelling and screaming and it's a, you know, big SEC matchup, you know, like, you've already been there in your own
Yeah.
mind. Like, the outcome is going to be the outcome. Let's just go.
Yeah. I mean, I go back to my very first play in the swamp. It was probably the biggest blessing that I had, right? I'm on kickoff return. We're playing maybe Middle Tennessee, somebody, one of the smaller schools. And
Hmm.
I'm on kickoff return, and I've been working this thing all week, right? Special teams. I got to
Hmm.
run all the way back. I got to go get R4. I got to go run back 20 some yards, turn around, engage my block, and keep it, try to get this return out of there. So
Hmm.
all I was thinking about was that, right? And lo and behold, it's my first play ever in the swamp. And I'm like, all right, go back, get R4, get R4, get R4. And I go to turn as the ball's kicked, and they onside kick it right at me. And I'm like, I know they didn't just onside kick this damn ball. And I go to
Oh
jump on it,
man.
and whoop, it squirts out, and they get the ball. My very first play in the
Oh
swamp,
no.
right?
Welcome to the
I
swamp,
will
baby.
never forget I will never forget the amount of anxiety that I had inside of
Hmm.
me before that first play. And
Hmm.
directly walking off that field afterwards, Charlie Strong, I'll never forget this. He says, well, the worst thing that ever could happen to you has happened. So might as well go play football now, right? And I said,
Yeah,
and
dude.
I said, you know what? You're right. Right? Like
Yeah.
now I'm
Yeah.
free. Like the worst has
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So nothing else can be worse than that. So now I can just go play freely. And it allowed me to
Dude.
erase that anxiety. And that tells you that something negative, right? How you react to it, how your mindset is after that happens to you is what really makes you into that ultimate warrior. What really can prepare you as a
I love
leader and
it.
as the ultimate teammate. Like that is you take that, spin it, and like, well, shit, now I'm loose. Now I'm loose. Everybody's got to get
Hmm.
it now, and the rest is
Dude,
history.
I I really hope that for the people that are listening right now, I want you to close your eyes and think about all the anxieties you have before you go make that sales call, before you hop in the batter's box, before you throw your first pass, jump off your first block. Like, guys, if the bad thing happens, there's there's always the next play, right? There's the next time. And your job is to understand that it's okay. Peak performance, I talk to this with the athletes that I work with. Peak performance does not mean perfect
Yeah,
performance by any stretch of the imagination. Like if y'all are shooting to be perfect, like in the year you guys won the national championship in 2006, it looked like a perfect season, but it wasn't a perfect season. There was many failures, throughout that season. So let's walk the audience through maybe one of the biggest things, like adversity things that you guys experienced that year and still walk through and then won the national
I mean,
championship.
we lost that year. We lost to Auburn, right?
Yep.
And I still remember for about 20 minutes, I just sat on the field like not believing that we ever could lose. I was so strong in my
Hmm.
belief that nobody could beat us that it
Hmm.
took me 20 minutes after the game to stop saying, we got it, we coming back. We got it. We good. We coming back. The game was over, and everybody was looking at me like I was crazy. I'm like, "No, we good. We got it.
Yeah.
We got it. We got
Yep.
it." And then once the trigger let off, that oh shit, we don't got it. We lost, right?
Hmm.
Then
Yeah.
the eruption happens, right? And that talks into that eruption of the locker room when I went inside. When I got back in the locker room, and it was just a instance of, listen, guys, I'm holding everybody accountable, right? You did this, you did that, you did this. It needs to be fixed. This is something that you've been doing for a long time, and ain't nobody saying shit, but you need to be doing this, and you ain't been doing it. And now it shows up in the
Hmm.
game, and now we get beat, right? So holding everybody accountable, it was a lot more violent of a situation than that. But that's pretty much what happened afterwards, right? And it wasn't just a pointing fingers thing, right? It was an accountability thing. But I also made myself accountable to them. I said, you'll
Hmm.
never see anybody that's gonna push harder and go harder, right? And you have to understand when I do that whole thing at Auburn, Tim Tebow's a freshman sitting in the locker room watching that, right? And then I loved it because the year, 2 years
Mhm.
after I left, you see Tim go up on that podium and basically say, I'm holding my, you won't see a person that works harder than me. You won't see a team that works harder than me. And it
Mhm.
was like looking in the mirror, like, oh my God, here it
Yeah.
is, right?
That's
Like, well, shit,
leadership.
I would put all my money on these jokers to win the national championship after
Mhm.
that because I understood where he was coming from. And I had seen that. I had seen that fire in my eye
Mm.
when I did it in Auburn the year that we won it. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it's just
Amazing.
like you have to understand that adversity is going to come, right? And
Mhm.
the assumption of perfection is one of the things that keeps people from doing ultimately what they're able to do and being as great as they possibly can, right? I'll give you a everyday scenario. Okay, I have a guy that washes my cars. Okay, great
Mhm.
at washing cars. I mean, looks like nothing. Looks like it came fresh off the dealership every time that he washes them, right? But I started off washing. He washed 2 cars. Well, now I have 3 cars in a big Sprinter van, 4 cars, right? But every time that he comes, he's only able to wash 2 cars at a time, right? Because he's blown up. He's gotten that busy. He's that good.
Mhm.
And I asked him. I said, hey, why would you only wash 2 cars when you come, when you have the capacity to make double the amount of money or even over double because the other one's a Sprinter, right? And he says,
Mhm.
well, you trust me to wash these cars, so I don't trust anybody else to wash your cars. And I have to schedule it out and I'm busy. Boom, 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 boom. Right? I said, but that doesn't make sense because now you're leaving business on the table. I said, why don't you train somebody? He's like, I just don't trust people, to wash the cars the way that I do. I
Mm.
said, bro, that's all in your head. I said,
Mhm.
if you go hire somebody and you train them good and they do 80% of the job that you're doing, I'll never notice. I said, as a matter of fact, after you wash my cars, I don't even look at them anymore. I just get it because I know it's gonna be good. I get in, I drive off, I didn't even
Mhm.
look at it. I got in the car, I didn't even look at it. I know it's done, right? So if you train
Mm.
somebody to do 80% as good of a job as you can have 4 more trucks running at the same time, and all of your clientele still would love you and still be happy. But
Mhm.
what you're scared of is that that person won't do 100% of the job the same way that you will. Well, nobody said they needed to. You get what I'm
No,
saying?
that dude's his own bottleneck,
And that's
man.
how it works. So a lot of times that thought of perfection, that thought that you have to be perfect at doing something in order to do it great, that is what scares people from growth and elevation inside of themselves. And he took that and he ran with it, and is growing it now. But that opened up an eye to him because he was like, "What? Oh my God!" The whole time I've been
Yeah,
thinking
man.
this way, but all of a sudden now I got that perfection out of the way, that thought of perfection or chasing perfection, and now it allows me to be the greatest company I could possibly be. You know what I'm saying?
I love it, dude. That's a great job being there for that guy and, giving him a little leadership, and it's because you believed in
I
him, right?
know
You saw
how
how
hard he
hard he
works.
worked. And you wanna help him scale. You want him to be, you want him to have Bentleys of
Yeah.
his own, right? You want him, yeah. So listen, man, I think one of the biggest things, like, we could talk about, your time at Florida all day long. But I think the one thing that is gonna interest my audience, and it interests me because I went through it myself, the transition
Mhm.
from being an athlete to a normal person. Like, I know you struggled with some stuff, couldn't even watch the game of football for a while. I couldn't even look at a baseball
Right.
for
Yeah.
years, dude. So let's walk the audience through a little bit something like that. And then I want to get to what you're doing now and talk about your book because I want everybody on here. I'm gonna put a link and I want everybody to buy your damn
Yeah.
book, dude. I mean it straight
There
up.
you go.
So
Well, interesting story with me. After winning the national championship, I was like at an all-time high of football. And ultimately,
mhm.
that ended up being my all-time high in football, right? Because I got
Sure.
drafted in the 7th round when I was supposed to get drafted in the first or second. Lost about $16 million in one day on that.
Yeah, but you stayed an extra year
Right?
too, though, didn't you?
No, no, no.
No?
I left early,
Oh,
right?
damn.
So got
Okay.
drafted in the
Okay.
7th round, right? And when I submitted my papers, it said as anywhere as late as the 2nd round. So okay, I'm gonna go make some money for my family, right? Get
Hmm.
drafted in the 7th round, but not only do I get drafted in the 7th round, I get drafted to the San Diego Chargers, and they have a guy drafted, a middle linebacker drafted in the 3rd round, the same exact year, right? So lo and behold, here I go, right? Just me and this guy, and of course they want him to play because they want
Yeah,
to justify the draft pick, right? Um,
of
so I
course.
fight, beat him out for 2 years, end up leading the NFL in special teams tackles my second year, and that was a whole shift, right? Like having to assume a new role. I went from leader and captain of a team to being a special team player, right, and getting a special teams tag on me. Fought that out.
Mm,
Actually, got to start my 3rd and 4th years, and it was time to get paid, right? Like, okay, here's my next
mhm.
time to get paid. I've been 4 years in the NFL, and now it's time to. And then what happens? The NFL lockout, right? So then it's like, oh
Mhm.
God, all these guys are signing for nothing. So okay, like, gotta go prove myself another year. Go to Kansas.
Yep,
I'm
one
in the
more.
best shape of my life, having the best training camp I could have. Last play of the last preseason game, bang, tear my Achilles. It's like, whoa, what the hell? Right?
Come on,
So
man.
then my last year, we're playing, and one of my best friends on the team plays Mike linebacker with me, Javon Belcher, shoots himself in the head at the
Mhm.
Kansas City facility, right? And I'm on my way as I pull in, he does this, right? That was on a Saturday. We played on Sunday. And everywhere that his name was, they kind of just scratched his name out, put mine. And mentally, the toll of that, having to play a game on Sunday, it wore on me.
Mm.
It made me fall out of love with the game. And I retired after that year, right? I knew I was going to be going. I enrolled back in school. I was a 3.8 GPA student. And I would have finished in 3 years because I ultimately that was the plan. But in football, it's really 2.5 years because then you got to go train for the combine or whatnot.
Mhm.
Enrolled, went back to school, went and talked in front of the Gator Boosters because I knew there was when I went into and when I approached having to retire from the NFL, I knew that I had to do something else that was a career. I didn't want a job, right? And
Right.
how I told this to people was going to be very important on the next steps of my life. So I went and met with Gator Club, Gator Boosters, and I told them, I said, look, I'm a leader. I'm a smart individual, and I have money, right? So I'm not mowing lawns, and I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking for a career. And if you have any careers where you need fresh eyes, some strong leadership, and you need somebody to bring an element that is outside of the circle and sphere that you've had in this company for a while, then I'm your guy, right?
Mm.
And they bid on me like Shark Tank, right? So they everybody was like, by the time I got done speaking, everybody was like, oh, gotta have them, right? And I ended up
Mhm.
choosing, and even Urban Meyer was trying to get me to coach at that time, and I knew coaching wasn't for me.
I bet.
And I was like, look, I'm a family guy, right? I want to be at every football game for
Mhm.
my kids. I want to do all of this, and in coaching in that industry, if I was going to be the best, I wasn't going to have time enough to do it.
No, and I love that about you, man. I just
Yeah,
gotta say that
and that was
that's
just
true
unacceptable to
integrity.
me. For people, my best friend is special teams coach at Maryland. Great for him, right? For me,
Mhm.
I was like, I'm not going down that path, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I ended up choosing CMEX, which was one of the biggest cement companies in the world, right? And a guy
yeah,
10 years before me that played for Florida, David Nabavi. He gave me an opportunity to manage, the ready mix department. And I built a bunch of apartment complexes all around Central Florida, right? Built big tilt wall buildings for Amazon and that kind of stuff. And I thought that I was doing pretty well, right? You making six figures, got a company
mhm,
car, you're the boss, and I thought that I was doing pretty well, but there was something inside of me that said, look, I'm not doing this isn't why God put me here. You know what I'm saying? Like
mhm.
this
Yeah, I know
this
exactly what
isn't
you're
why
saying.
he gave me all of the ability. I wasn't like other football players, right? I was always the smart guy, right? And in
Mhm.
Kansas City, I played with 3 other Pro Bowl linebackers, but I had the mic in my ear. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta be. There's something that he put inside of me. There's a reason that he put all this inside of me, and I had about 6 of my boys that were trying to get disabilities from the NFL, and they were failing.
Mhm.
So they came to me and asked for my help. I'm like, let me look into this. And the more and more I dug, the more and more I found that there was a disconnect. There were things that we didn't know or that we didn't know how to do. There were obstacles that we just naturally could not do. Right. So I said, "Oh my God, nobody's gonna know this. I don't know this. I'm one of the smart ones, right?" I was like, and nobody knows
Mhm.
this. Nobody that I know knows this, right? So I said, shoot, I can help these guys out. And I got those 6 guys with
Mm.
disability, and, I was dealing with my mental health right before that, right? And I was like, I got these guys with disability. This is what I need to be doing, like, cause somebody has to
Mm.
get this right. Somebody has to do this for these guys. So, that's how my company started, right? And then there
Amazing.
from there, you just problem solve, right? You start figuring out what the price is, and all of that corporate experience that I got over those 2.5 years at CMEX, I was able to throw
Mhm.
that into the bucket when building my company and say, "Okay, look,
Mhm.
this is how much it's gonna cost. At this time, we'll increase the price. At this time, blah, blah, blah. This is when I hire a person. This is how I train up this person." And I started using those same philosophies. I started being able to train people and then replicate myself in this area and replicate myself in that area. And
Amazing.
5.5 years later, now I represent over 5,000 NFL players, and I'm basically like the Amazon in that market, right? I get guys disability.
So cool.
I also have 2 rehab facilities where it's only athletes, right? Because we
Mhm.
know as professional athletes that if for us to heal mentally, right? For us to open up mentally and be able to get the healing that we need, a lot of times we need to be around in a circle of people that's going to understand the exact same things that we understand, going through the same problems we go through.
Bro.
No offense, but the normal regular person that we consider just a drug addict off the street, and you go put them in a group meeting with a guy that's famous, that's famous to an extent, that's had a career in the NFL, and we're sharing back and forth in the room, just doesn't feel right.
Doesn't
Doesn't
feel
feel
right,
right.
man.
Like
Like,
you're like, I'm not letting you
yeah.
in, right? But if you go with
Yeah.
and we got our facility out in Oxnard, we basically it's like glam rehab, right? Because of course you got to have it
Mhm.
glammed up for these guys. So we have
Of course.
houses on the water. It's $3 to $5 million houses. They get their treatment. They go see psychiatrists, psychologists, neurologists, neuropsychs. They get brain mapping, TMS therapy. But they also have a private chef that cooks them
Mm.
3 meals a day. They get massage therapy. They do boxing, yoga. We're even
Mhm.
implementing art therapy from the Art of Olympians charity that's going to go out there and help these guys to do art for when the Olympics comes to LA. They'll have somewhere for the art to go up inside of what they put together for the Olympics. So we got a lot of things going on out there, and the amount of guys that come to me and say, "Hey man, you saved my family, you saved my relationship with my kids, you saved my marriage, you saved my life." That right there is what ultimately gets me on an all-time high. And I
Yeah,
don't
man.
rather be doing anything else in the world than what I'm doing, right? I'm still in it with my guys, right? Everybody picks at me because I'm brother, brother, brother. I always say brother, right? First
Mhm.
text message to you, right? Hey,
I love it, man. That was the energy. I'm
and
like,
it's like,
"Oh, okay.
and it's
Okay."
because most of the time I'm working with my brothers, and I still get
Mhm.
to win with my brothers. Occasionally, I
Yeah, man.
lose with my brothers, but they know that I'm
Yeah.
fighting, and they know that I'm fighting the same way that I was fighting when you see me on the documentary for us to win and become champions. I'm fighting for those guys the same way to change and make a big impact in their life. So That's where I'm at, and that's why
Dude,
that's how the whole business
dude, I
came
love
through.
that.
That's how it started. That's how,
Mhm,
now I own 11 companies, and I had a book. I have a definition of a leader leadership academy that'll be rolling out next month. Um,
oh, really? You have an
an
academy
online
coming out.
academy, yes, where what it's
Very
going to give
nice.
you.
Can you talk about that or?
Yeah, so the academy is kind of like a different style at leadership, right? Because everybody's
Mhm,
going to tell you kind of the same things with leadership, right? Well, I look at leadership a lot different, and I say this in my book, right? A lot of times they'll tell you that in leadership you have to find somebody that does it like you, right? Find somebody that does it like you would see yourself doing it. That's very helpful, right? But what if you have
mhm,
what if you're in a place where you don't have that, right? Because growing up in Pine Hills, I didn't have many people that I said, "Oh, I could go talk to this guy. He's doing everything that I ever want to do in life." Right? And even the average person, right? I have friends like Ja Rule and Jamie Foxx, and I've met President Obama,
mhm.
right? I can go up to these people and have these conversations. Most people can't, right? So what happens when
Right,
you can't have those
right.
conversations with those people and learn directly from
Mhm,
those people? What you have to do is re-engineer your vision, right? So you have
mhm.
to see what the people are doing around you that's making them unsuccessful, right? And do opposite, right? When
Yep.
I why did I go my whole all through elementary, middle school, high school, college, I've always made straight A's. And the reason was because the people that were around me, they made D's and F's, right? They were
Mhm.
terrible people in the community. They wasn't doing the right thing after school. And I said, I'm gonna
Yeah,
be different than them, right? I'm gonna be a
I
good
like it.
person. I'm gonna be the person that's making
Mhm,
the A's and B's, that's studying. I want to do something different than the people that are around me are doing. And I think everybody bought into that when they saw me doing those things and how strongly I cared to doing that.
mhm.
And it now you see where it gives motivation, it gives that strength to a lot of people that aspire to be something greater. And I have people that come up to me all the time, like, man, you and your wife, y'all, we've been together since high school. You and your wife, y'all inspire us, right? We met in middle school. So the people that have known us our
So
whole
awesome.
time, right? They've known us the whole time, and now they see all of the things that we're doing. They're like, look, we could do this. We could do better. We could do this. We could do that, and it inspires people. So,
Mhm,
um, a lot of it is that, like, you're gonna get that uncandid leadership stuff, and a lot of my stories of how I became that kind of leader is going to be inside of that leadership course, where you're going to get still the same curriculum of like the real leadership, what it takes for
mhm.
leaderships, what happens in these scenarios. But then the where it separates itself is you're going to get these individual stories and real life stories and real ways that you put this stuff in place in your life and how I did it in mine, so that you could be successful.
I think it's great. Leadership, just like you said earlier, in entrepreneurship is a lot about problem solving,
Oh,
right? So in this case, I mean, it's
all
all
problem
problem
solving.
solving, right? You find a problem, you solve it, right? And then you work backwards from that, like how to, what's the market for it, what to charge, et cetera. When you're looking at, your marriage that you met Pam when you were back in middle school, and now, you start dating in high school or whatever it was, and now here we are as adults, right? And you guys are building these companies, building this life for you and your children, and people are inspired of it, is because you problem solved,
Mhm,
because you looked at everybody else and you saw what everybody else was doing, because you had the opportunity of seeing what all other football players did on the road in the SEC. You saw what they were doing in the NFL. It's like, well, if I want a successful marriage, maybe I do the
there you
opposite,
go.
right? Maybe I just do things differently. And that's the one thing that I'm just sitting here, not the one thing, but one of the things that I'm blown away by, because that's exactly how
Yeah,
I am. That's exactly how I am. And if I want a certain amount of success in my career or with my show, I look at what everybody else is doing and I go, okay, maybe I'll do the opposite, right? Maybe I'll grow organically instead of buy listens and downloads. Maybe I'll, really try to gain relationship capital of my own with a Brandon Siler just by being a good dude,
mhm,
right? That's a difference. Everybody else wants to just pay for it.
mhm.
They just want, they want to show up on these stages. They want to pay all this money and buy friends. I'm not about that. And if I can't make it in this industry long term because of that, I'm okay with
Right.
it. Because, but I know I
Right.
will. But I know I will. And then my relationships with dudes like you are going to be actually
Right.
real.
There you go. I mean, it's
Problem solving.
just like in this industry now. Since Netflix, you can only imagine all of the different things. I've been on Fox and Friends playing
I bet.
pickleball. I've been on the Fox couple shows.
I saw you doing a lot of pickleball stuff, bro.
Yeah, so the business of pickleball is not one that's crazy yet, but I was my my
Mhm.
my my partner Ryan Sherry, he's one of the top pickleball players in the world. And we
Mhm.
started about 5 years ago into this pickleball mania as well. And it has grown up and blossomed into something that's crazy, right? So we've
Mhm.
always been there. We were ahead of the curve a lot where I played in tournaments and developed, and I kind of go back and forth from golf to pickleball. And it was like with him growing and playing it all the time, it put me in that sense of like the business of pickleball, what can be done as
Mhm.
it grows and that kind of stuff. And that's more of the fact of where I'm at with the whole pickleball
Mm.
situation, like the business of
I
pickleball and
love it,
where it
dude.
takes off to.
I love it.
So that's where pickleball is with me. I love to play the game. I think it's a great game. I love the fact that we were just the owners of Publix have just opened up a pickleball court in Lakeland, right? And the
Mm.
grand opening was yesterday. And they invited us up to play pickleball, and they had this big tournament and invited us up. So go sit and eat dinner with the owners of Publix, right? And it's just
That's
one
cool.
family, right? They're not even a publicly traded company. It's just one nice little family that just went whoosh and they keep it together, built the golf course all for themselves, right? And it was just like,
Crazy.
wow, it's like, what in the heck? The same dude that built they
That's
hill and
crazy,
built a
man.
course. So, but able to be
Yeah.
in that circle and be around those people allows you to understand that there's a consistency of successful people, right? They all
Mm.
are very oriented on problem solving and understanding that things aren't going to be lined up perfect, but all you have to do is just figure them out. You go, you keep going, you keep pushing, and when something gets in the way, you figure it out and you keep rolling. You know what I'm saying? So I've learned that through all of my successful friends, sitting around them, talking to them, being able to have these conversations with people that like own Publix. I got a partner that's the vice president of Firemark Bank and was the CEO of
Mm.
Chico's clothing store, right? The white,
Oh, down here in the fort,
yeah,
huh?
white market, black market, right? So he did that, blew that company up, right? And then 30 years later retired and now is one of my is a small partner in our business, right? So these are the people that I'm able to learn from and to take things from that I can utilize. And what I'm doing in my academy and what I do in my book is try to give people insight to take advantage of those things without meeting those people, right? Able to use
Mm.
those things without meeting those people, right? And that is the genuineness of wanting to help people, right? When I did the book and when
Yeah.
I did the academy, it's about, okay, let me help you to establish, let me give you sort of some type of playbook or rhyme or reason or how I did it. And there were certain people that influenced me and things that I took out of my life that switched how I did things. And you can do the same thing in your
Yeah.
life and become successful in business and entrepreneurship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, I think it's important, man, especially, seeing the success you had, in your career, football, and then going into entrepreneurship and into real life. And like we touched on earlier, like, athletes really struggle with that. When they retire early from a sport, whether it's because of an injury or they were forced out or whatever it is, like, bro, something psychological happens. In fact, I'm preparing a TED talk right now for it,
Yeah.
and I'm sending applications everywhere. So, the bottom line is I know it's going to get picked up. I know I'm going to go talk about it, right? I know it's going to get accepted. And for me, they created a massively hurt individual. Like, I was so hurt. I did dumb stuff and I hurt people, not physically, but emotionally. And it was just, I didn't have somebody like you. Right. And that's my point. That's the reason I wanted you on the show. Yeah. Swamp Kings, that was the catalyst. I'm like, oh, shoot. Like Brandon's doing some cool stuff in his life. I should probably dig into
Right.
that. Right. And so for me, it's about bringing this message, so because I have former professional athletes that listen to this
Mhm.
show. It's like, hey, like, they listen to this, there might be some ways that they can partner with you and get your message out even further, and for you to continue to help people and pour into their lives. I mean, that truly is your purpose, right? Could you imagine still working at
I
CMAX?
know.
Like, dude, like that's not your
Yeah.
purpose. Like, I know what my purpose
Mhm.
is, like, and I'm fighting like hell every day to
Yeah.
fulfill it.
And I love C-Mex, don't get me wrong, because they gave me
Yeah, no, it was great company,
part
man.
of what, why I was able to build what I was able to build, the corporate sense of it. Um,
Hmm.
but
Sure.
but also I see this every day. Our guys retiring from football. And
Hmm.
I'm a little piece of this small part of sports where I was one of the guys that walked out. Right?
Hmm.
Like, you think
Yeah.
about it, even all of the athletes, all of the greats that you hear over time, they don't wa the game walks away from them. They don't walk
Hmm.
away from the game,
Hmm.
right? There's only a very,
Sure.
very small percent, maybe 2, 3% that say
The only dude, honestly, the only guy I could really think of other than you is Barry Sanders.
somebody like that, right? And there are other instances, but they're very few and far
Sure.
between because you wanted to do this your whole life. Unfortunately for me, it was
Yeah.
because I fell in love with the game because of traumatic death, and something happening,
Mhm.
right? But for 2
Yeah.
years, they still called me and said, "Hey, you gonna play football? Gonna play football?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm good.
No,
I'm
I'm good.
good."
I'm good. I'm done.
I'm done playing football, right? But what I've seen over time and what I see with other individuals is the mental state that happens with that, right? If I have given
Mhm.
this sport my whole life, and even I had this happen to me, I dare this sport move on without me,
Mm.
right? I dare this sport move on
Yeah.
without me. And I have one of my good friends that played long time in the NFL, right? We had a conversation, sitting out in the back porch, just kicking it, having a couple drinks, and we have a conversation. And he says, I don't understand the negative stigma that comes with saying that I'm Brandon Siler, I played in the NFL. I'm the NFL football player, right? Like, why is that such a negative stigma? That's what I did. That's who I am, right? And I said,
Mhm.
see, that's where you get it misconstrued, right? I'm also Brandon Siler, the high school graduate.
Mhm.
I'm also Brandon Siler, the number 2 high school recruit in the country, but I don't say that. And do you know why?
But dude, like,
And
this
thi
is it. Sorry, go
and I
ahead, man.
said, "Do you know why I don't say that? Because those are things that I did. That is not what I'm
Mhm.
doing or who I am currently." And when you find what you wanna do and what you wanna do after you get done playing, you wanna attach yourself to that. You use
Mhm.
what you've done in your past to make it better for what you're doing now, but when you find
Yeah.
something else, you wanna go be that. Because I was
Yeah.
25 years old, played 6 years in the NFL, and I was 25, 26 years old when I retired. So now from
Mhm.
25, 26, let's say that I'm gonna live to 80, right? Like, you ain't even halfway, right? You're barely past a quarter way, of where you're gonna be in life or who you're gonna be in life, and you retired. So now
Mhm.
holding and clinging on to that, in a sense, is just being not being able to identify what you want to do and where you want to go with the rest of your life. You know,
Dude, this is so important because this is all about identity. This is exactly my
right?
point. This is exactly my point, Brandon, is like, listen, I played baseball at LSU. You played football. You were an NFL player. That's not who we are. It's stuff that we
Did
did, right? Who am I? right? And I think that's the big, I know that's the big disconnect, because when these athletes, they don't have someone like you, they don't have that purpose, someone to help them, guide them afterwards, their usher in back into real life, so to speak, or outside of their sport, they don't know who the hell they are.
Right.
That's when the depression sets in. That's when they get in trouble with alcohol. That's when they get in trouble with
The
drugs.
law.
That's when the law, they drink too much and they hop in a car, go 150 and kill somebody. And they're now, boom, they're
Yeah.
gone. They're in prison the rest of
Yeah.
their life.
And
Like, so I just, you know,
yeah, and I think and that's why my rehab facility is so important to me, right? Is because
mhm,
you go out there for 30 to 60 days and you're locked in. And for them 30 to 60 days, it allows you to be selfish,
mhm,
right? Because think about what we do as athletes. We go make it for everybody else.
mhm,
Usually when we get there, we want to take care of everybody else, right?
mhm.
And then we get done, and most of those people that we were taking care of and looking out for, they disappear, or they call us stupid for blowing it, or they, anything. It's like, well, I was blowing it on you. You out,
Yeah.
How can you call me stupid? I was caring about you.
Yeah. Nice house.
Yeah. So it's like when you go out there, now it allows you to be selfish again. And it allows you to find
Mhm.
yourself. Who am I really? What do I want to
Right.
do? Why am I feeling this way? And then once you start being able to identify those things, then now you can progress and say, okay, look, what things do I need to do in order to be able to do the things that I like to do, the things that I love to do, the
Mm.
person that I really want to become, right? And one of the things that I think is awesome about us getting guys disability is because the very first thing that you have to figure out is financially how you're going to survive, right? So
Mhm,
you could talk about all this hoopla, hipla all you want. The bills got to be paid. And guys like us can't
mhm.
just go to Mickey D's or Subway and go get a job in the community, right?
No. Mm-mm.
So this disability, we get them a disability for 7.5 years, 15 years, or pretty much for the rest of their life, right?
It's
And
amazing.
that helps you figure out the financial part of it. Now
Mhm.
you go out to the facility, you get your mind right, you understand what things you want to do, why you were thinking of yourself a certain way, and being able to re-engineer that. We also do some neuron work where you can really see neurons that basically have disrupted and aren't connected. It's just like a muscle.
Wow.
Like, let's say you
Wow.
tear a muscle, right? The problem with tearing a muscle is that, you can't get from here to there. It ain't communicating, right? Same happens when you
Mhm.
have a traumatic brain injury or something happens in your head, right? So now there's TMS that can massage and ice and stem those neurons in your brain basically and get that back healthy to make that connection back stronger. And
Damn.
that connection is basically the difference between looking at the same exact situation, glass half full, compared to
Yeah.
looking at it glass half empty, right? And you could be looking at the
Mm.
same exact thing. And that's where, when you start connecting back to that, because in order to make it as a pro athlete, you got to have a shit ton of fight in you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Of
everybody
course.
wants to be a pro
Yeah.
athlete. So if you get
Sure.
there, you got some shit in you that other people don't have, right? And now you have to
Word.
find
Yep.
out how to use that shit that you got inside you in other ways than what you always used it for and what you always wanted to use
Mm.
it for. And that is where you make that connect. You know what I'm saying? And that's where you're able to
I
be
do,
successful
man.
at something else in life.
Ah, bro, man. Look, dude, I appreciate you coming on. We're going to land the plane here. For those of you listening, I just really encourage you to dive into Brandon Siler at bsiler.com, pick up his book, learn about leadership. And really, when his academy is launched, I really encourage everybody to go check it out, enroll in it, and see how he can help you. But more than anything, guys, I want you to share this episode with your favorite athlete, your favorite former athlete, and all of Brandon's contact information with his companies and everything like that are going to be in the show notes. So that way you guys can be connected. And if you're one of those players that is retired that are looking for some help and some aid, Brandon's your guy. So, Brandon, dude, thank you so much. And I cannot wait to connect with you more. And dude, I just
Man,
appreciate you
thank
coming
you
on,
for
brother.
having me, Sean. We're actually starting baseball disability too. So uh,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
we're going.
Okay. Well, you know me, man. I know a lot of
Yeah,
baseball
so
players.
I'll
So,
be in contact with you about it. But we're doing our
yep.
first few cases right now to help these guys out. But we'll be in contact. Thank you, man. I appreciate you for having me. It was fun kicking it with you, man.
You know it, baby. Only the
All
beginning.
right, baby.
Peace. Southwest Florida is one of the most beautiful places on the planet to live. For those of you that are thinking of moving from other states to come to Florida, or even just moving to a different part of the state, I want you to think of a big, beautiful luxury home. Contact Legacy Luxury Builders. They are a family-owned and operated luxury residential construction company. As a family-owned business, they believe in the power of building not just homes, but legacies. Contact Legacy Luxury Builders. Unlock your true potential on the field and court with our peak mental performance program for athletes. Train your mind to conquer challenges, stay focused under pressure, and achieve unparalleled success. Our expert coaches will guide you through personalized techniques, enhancing concentration, resilience, and confidence. Picture yourself outperforming your rivals, making split-second decisions with clarity, and achieving victory like never before. Join us today and elevate your game to new heights. Peak Mental Performance Program, where champions are forged in the mind. Email me today, sean.french@thedeterminedsociety.com for more information. See you inside.